Okay guys, so today we're going to be doing a little tutorial on how to dye your action figure parts. I usually do this with boots on figures because it is a bitch to paint those those disc pegs. I hate doing it. I know a lot of other people hate doing it. I don't generally mind sanding, but it's just time consuming and annoying. So I try to go around it whenever I can, especially for boots because it's a pretty simple way of getting the boots exactly that nice black boot color that you like. And right now all I'm doing is these are Storm Collectibles Alex boots that I'm prepping. Apparently that orange of the boot is not actually its base, plastic color. This lighter orange that you're seeing here is the actual color of the boots. So I'm taking all the paint off with some acetone. You want to do that very carefully, all right? Because the acetone, and all I have right here is some, 100% acetone from Walgreens, the nail polish remover. The acetone is going to degrade the plastic on your action figures. Some plastics are a little more resilient to it than others. The Marvel Legends plastic does get pretty chewed up if you put too much acetone on it. So you got to just take it slow and be careful with it. I use the Pounds 978 Customs method with the Q-tips. So you can see right here, all I've got is some Q-tips and my little thing of acetone right here. All right. And all you're going to do is dip that acetone dip that Q-tip into the acetone a little bit, and you're going to very gently just start to take off that paint. You can see that there is some paint on the Q-tip there. So you're just going to do that until you get all the paint off of this guy, and then that's going to prep it for dyeing. Because if you don't take any of the paint off of the figure or whatever parts that you're dyeing, it's just going to discolor the paint and not really penetrate the plastic. All right. I'll get back to you guys when I finish prepping all of these boot parts, and then we'll get into the actual dyeing process. Okay, another little tip, guys. If you start to notice that the acetone is starting to chew into your plastic, don't be too alarmed. Like I said, just take it slow. As soon as you notice that it's starting to either melt the plastic or start to chew it up a bit, just stop. Let the plastic breathe. Let it reconstitute itself a little bit. Work on the other side until, that starts to, like you don't want to ruin it. So just don't get it super gummy. But as soon as you notice that, you're feeling like it's starting to get a little gummy, or it's starting to stick, or that plastic is starting to get melted, just stop, let it sit for a minute or two, let the plastic reconstitute, and then go back at it, nice and slow and easy. So here I've got my parts mostly cleaned up. I got rid of most of the paint on there. I think it'll be sufficient enough to still pigment the boots. So you can see they're pretty mostly cleaned up here. Boiling the water now, and this is the brand of dye that I use. I've used this a lot with dyeing visors back when I did costumes. I did prop building and costume making with extreme costumes for a long time. So this is the stuff that I use for dyeing my plastics. Our water to a decent boil now. I'm just gonna take this packet that's inside the iDye Poly, pouch here. You are gonna want to put some gloves on. I don't have any on at the moment, but you are gonna want to put some gloves on. This stuff stains everything. I've suffered the consequences once, so don't make my mistakes. But you're just going to throw that in there. You're going to throw this poly intensifier, color intensifier in there too. Alright, now that we've got the packet and the color intensifier in here mixed thoroughly, yeah, you've got no clumps, you've got no pieces of the water soluble packet left in there. You let it boil for about a minute or two to really make sure that the water gets, that the dye permeates the water. Alright, you can see it's already starting to dye this spoon, so that's pretty cool. What I do is I get a fine mesh, strainer like this. I'll have it in here, and then I'll put my figure parts in the mesh, inside this mesh strainer. And it gives you a little bit of control, so that then you can kind of move it up and down a little bit, shake it a little bit to keep the soft plastic. Once it boils, it's going to get a little malleable. So you just move it around, keep it from laying on the mesh too much, because you also don't want it to just be at the bottom of the pot. It has a more high of a likelihood to burn, down at the bottom of the pot. So I do this, motion to kind of keep the figure pieces moving, and I'll show you guys that right now. Okay, so here are my parts, and I'm just going to submerge them. And like I said, especially with dyeing these figures and having the boiling hot water and the likelihood and risk of destroying your figures or your figure pieces that you're using, you want to just keep things moving. And always, always, always have an eye on this process, because you have no idea how many times I've seen guys post their horror pics of their figures being absolutely destroyed from trying to dye them. And yeah, you do this at about 5 to 10 minute intervals. You take them back out, try to take a look at them, see how well they're dyeing. If you don't think that it's as good a color, or you want it a little darker, just keep messing with it, and keep shaking it up, keep submerging it, and keep going at those 5 to 10 minute intervals. It's gonna be a bit tedious, but the end result is really great. And then I'll show you guys how to clean these up, get the excess dye off of there, and you'll be able to put them on your figures. Guys, quick tidbit here. The harder plastics that you're going to have on your action figures, the harder the plastic, the more careful you need to be about boiling your figures, because at a certain point, at a certain heat, if it's been in there too long, that hard plastic is going to warp. It's going to crack and warp, and you're going to destroy your figures. The softer rubber plastic pieces take this process a lot better. And just a quick preview, I'm going to strain that out real quick. Look at that. Okay guys, so I'm here outside. You can see that the parts did dye really well. They were only in there for about 7 or 8 minutes, and it definitely looks like the dye permeated the plastic. I'm going to flush these with some cold water from my hose, just because I didn't want to do it inside in my sink or anything like that. But I'm gonna flush these, get some of that excess dye off the bat, off of here, and we'll take a look at them again after that. Okay guys, so this is now the third dip in the boiling dye bath that I gave these boots, and I think they're sufficiently black for me now. After each bath, what I did was I took each one of those pieces, right? I took a paper towel or one of these shop rags. I covered it, I soaked it a little bit in some acetone, and then I wiped off these boot parts. after each dip, you know. And then this last third one, you know, I haven't washed off any of the excess with the acetone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let these sit for a few hours. You know, sometimes you can let it sit for a whole day if you want to you know, really let it finish taking in the pigment. And after this is, you know, completely dry, you will have this issue where if you just take these and put them on your figure, it's going to leave black marks on whatever it is that you put it on, whatever you get it in contact with. It will leave, you know, like little black streaks because of the excess dye. Once these are all completely dried up, that's when you can do the last, you know, swipe or pass with that paper towel and the acetone, and that will wipe off the excess dye from, you know, your boots or whatever item it is that you're dyeing black. You will notice this little bit of like an orangey sheen. That just happens whenever you dye this. The harder plastics tend to get that the most, but you can occasionally see it a little bit on the, you know, other rubber parts. There's a little bit of that like orangey shimmery sheen, but that goes away when you give it the swipe with the acetone. So don't worry about that, okay? Your items very well may take more than one pass. They might take, you know, a couple dips in the dye bath to get them the actual color that you want them to be, you know? So, yeah, it can be a little bit tedious, but it works pretty well. And then after that, you know, you can punch in any, you know, paint details that you want over here and seal it however you like. And, you know, that's always worked for me pretty well. I don't know if it gets any darker past, you know, like a half hour of, you know, dips and stuff. I just, you know, I've never tried it, so I don't know. But if you guys find anything easier technique for this, or, you know, like I said, my main reason for dyeing boots especially is always these damn ankle joints. You know, it is such a bitch to sand and prep these ankle joints so that then they don't paint rub. But doing this, you know, makes a pretty good solution to that. And then you get, you know, like, you know, perfect no paint rub boots out of it too. So there is one remark I want to say. You can see here these little green areas, or greenish tingy areas in the cracks. That's what happens when you don't acetone all of the paint off, okay? And that's because the dye doesn't react well to the paint that's already on there, so it just discolors the paint. You can really see it here on the bottom. I felt a little lazy on the bottom because, you know, I didn't really care what those look like, but the boot tops were my main focus. All right, so there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions, you know, just message me on Instagram or here on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.